This is the Electro-Harmonix Bender Royale Germanium Fuzz. It came out in late 2025, and if you're anything like me, you missed it because it wasn't much of a launch campaign that they went with or anything like that. So I heard about this when videos of the pedal started popping up on YouTube. And personally, I'm a huge sucker for a Bender style fuzz. My JHS Legends of Fuzz Bender is probably my favorite fuzz pedal I've ever played, to date anyway. And so when this one came out, it's also a take on a Mark III Bender. I just had to try it because this is a very feature-rich version of the Bender Fuzz as well. You don't just have 2 or 3 knobs on this one, nope, you've got 6, you've got 2 switches as well, there's an internal trim pot too, and more going on under the hood as well. So what I want to do in this video is explain to you folks exactly what's going on with this pedal. I'll play it for you in as many different fuzzy musical styles as possible as well, and hopefully by the end you'll know whether you need to add the Bender Royale to your own guitar rig. So the Bender Royale came out in late 2025. It'll set you back about $150 or 150 euros depending on where you're based, and you can get it in this shade of eye-watering orange or in a more standard run-of-the-mill black if you'd prefer that. But we do have a lot of controls here, so let's go through those first. We have 6 main knobs here. 4 of them you're really going to recognize straight away. We've got volume, fuzz, treble, bass, blend and bias. Now volume and fuzz, very self-explanatory. Volume, how loud you'd like it to be. Fuzz, how fuzzy you want it. Treble and bass is going to be a 2-band EQ, and the treble is an active control and the bass is a passive control, and these are really going to help you sculpt your fuzzy tones. Then we've got the blend and the bias controls, which are a bit more interesting. I think the blend control is going to be more useful for bass players than it is guitar players, because what that lets you do is blend in your guitar's dry signal as well, if you'd like to do that. That's definitely something bass players like to do to give themselves more clarity in their tones, but with guitar players we tend not to use that quite so much, at least to my personal taste we don't. And Electro-Harmonix recommend that you start with the pedal with the blend knob set to full, because then it's just full fuzzy signal, no dry signal whatsoever, and the more you wind that down, the more you're going to hear your dry signal. Finally, we have the bias control, and fuzz connoisseurs talk about biasing a lot. They talk about starving the voltage of their fuzz pedals to make them go more sputtery, more velcro-y, getting that really nice ripping vintage fuzz sound, and that's exactly what this control will let you do. Now Electro-Harmonix recommend that you start with the bias control at 12 o'clock because that's its natural position, and that's where the pedal is correctly biased, if you will, and you can use this knob to set the input bias voltage of the fuzz circuit. And Electro-Harmonix say you can set to the middle for normal operation and then turn it in either direction to push the transistors out of bias for those crunchier or sputtering sounds, and we're going to hear the bias knob in all of its different positions during the musical part of this demo. So those are the 6 main knobs, and up at the top we have 2 switches as well. There are 2 clipping modes available with this pedal. It's a germanium fuzz, so the top switch up here gives you germanium clipping, or flick it down to engage LED clipping instead, which is going to give you a rougher, more chaotic fuzz sort of a sound. And on the other side we have a fat switch. Turn the fat switch on to fatten up your sounds, give yourself more low end and more mids. Turn it off if you want more cutting frequencies without that low end girth. So those are the 6 main controls, and at the bottom here we have the foot switch, and this is not just a standard on-off foot switch. You can use it like that, but you can also use it as a momentary switch as well. So basically have your foot down for a second or two to engage the fuzz just for a couple of seconds and then let it go off again. Now you don't have to use that. That's something I would personally never use, but if you'd like it, it's there. And I also mentioned that we have an internal trim pot here, and we do, and that will let you set your impedance level of this pedal. And I'm going to have to read a bit of blurb from Electro-Harmonix here, but basically this trimmer adjusts the series impedance going into the fuzz circuit, which can emulate a guitar plugged directly into the Bender Royale. This gives you the feel of a classic fuzz pedal regardless of where the Bender Royale sits in your signal path. Now to use this mini internal trim pot, you're going to have to take the back plate off the pedal, and if you turn it clockwise it's going to increase the input impedance, which is going to give you a smoother fuzz tone. Turn it counterclockwise or down for less input impedance, and that's going to give you a more intense ripping sort of a fuzz tone. And there is going to be a short demo of that in the video, timestamp down there if you'd like to go directly to that to hear that for yourself. Otherwise you can power the Bender Royale via a standard 9-volt power supply or via a 9-volt battery. It's standard power supply for me throughout this video, but I think it's time that we started making some sounds with this thing. My rig for today is going to be the Bender Royale running into the front end of my Hughes & Kettner Black Spirit 200 amplifier, and we will use the clean and the crunch channel on the amp just to hear how the pedal reacts to those 2 different states of the amp. Now I want to keep things as pure as possible for most of it, so I'll run my guitar straight into the front of the pedal, but I do want to engage my Boss OC5 Octave pedal at some point too, just to hear how that reacts with this fuzz. My guitar is going to be my trusty 20 2025 Ibanez AZ standard HSS Strat type, so we've got humbuckers and single coils running here for basically every sort of guitar tone under the sun. Enough talk then, let's play the Electro-Harmonix Bender Royale Germanium Fuzz now, and we'll speak in a bit more detail about it afterwards. Okay then, so that was the Electro-Harmonix Bender Royale Germanium Fuzz, and I hope you enjoyed the playing and tones. Please leave me your thoughts down there telling me what you think of this pedal. Should it replace the JHS Bender on my board? Is it better than other tone benders that you've heard this year? Would really love to hear what you folks think as ever. But now it's time for me to tell you my thoughts and opinions about this pedal. And I actually bought this pedal with my own money, by the way, so this is a totally unsponsored take on this pedal. A dealer in Europe was knocking the orange ones out quite cheap on Black Friday, so I went for it, and I'm very glad I did, because this pedal really sounds great. It's like a traditional fuzz bender with more, if that's what you'd want, and that is quite often what I personally want. Now, I found that the best way to run this thing is, as Electro-Harmonix would suggest, with the bias in the middle, with the blend control all the way up, so you've just got fuzz and none of your dry signal, and for me personally, with the fuzz control all the way up too, and then to adjust that to taste using the volume knob on my guitar. I found that running the fuzz at anything less than full, things got a bit weak and woolly, which is a tone bender thing, but I found having it all the way up and then using your guitar's volume when you wanted to dial things back is the best way to go. I also really like that we've got two clipping controls here, Germanium for classic tone bender sounds, and then the LED clipping for a slightly more chaotic and ripping fuzz tone. I found personally that I think I prefer the Germanium for most of my riffing, but when I was doing garage rock single notey sort of stuff, the LED clipping with the bias knob down a bit makes things really lovely and sputtery, almost a trumpety sounding effect, and that works really well for some things, but you'll probably get sick of it really rather quickly. I also found that on the clean channel of my amp, it was way better to have the fat control on, and on the crunch channel, it was better to have the fat control off, because that just worked better for me personally. But this is going to be a taste thing, and the great thing about the Bender Royale is that you've got so many different options, and that's before you start playing with the EQ. Now, with the bass and treble controls here, you can really make this pedal work with any kind of guitar, any pickups, any amp as well, and using the internal impedance adjustment trim pot, if you'd like to do that, you can really make this work in any setting. Now, with that internal trim pot, I found that it was best halfway up as it comes from the factory, but turning it down and turning it up gave us some not insignificant tonal shifts that could work for you depending on what you need. So overall, this is a great sounding pedal. It does traditional fuzzes, it does more modern sounds, it's great for Indian alternative rock, which I personally play a lot. It's great for more sludgy and doomy stuff as well, and it's great for classic 50s and 60s fuzz tones too. So it's a fantastic sounding pedal. What else do I love about the pedal? Well, I love the fact that it's this beautiful shade of orange, and I'm really glad I ended up with this over the standard black. I like the build quality as well. As you would expect from Electro-Harmonix, this thing feels really rather solid, and you've got so many options, and I really like that about this pedal too. And you can also tell that Electro-Harmonix had a lot of fun when making this pedal. You can see that from the design on the outside, but if you take the back plate off and look at the circuit board as well, there's a lovely little bender on there, and if you're a Futurama fan like me, you'll really appreciate that. And in the top left corner, there is an amazing quote, one of my favorites from the film industry, from my favorite movie actually, and it says, "They call it a Royale with cheese." If you know what film that's from, leave me your answer down there, and you're officially my friend if you also know that, because that's from my favorite movie of all time. So I love a lot about this pedal. What don't I like so much? Well, the one thing that frustrated me slightly when I started dialing in my tones was the fact that you've got 6 small knobs and 2 small switches here, very close together, and my inelegant sausage fingers got in the way of one another quite a lot when dialing in the tones at first. But I have to say that that negated itself, because after about 10 minutes I found my sort of set and forget settings. That's going to be the blend all the way up, so none of my dry signal, fuzz all the way up as well, EQ kind of at about 12 o'clock, same as the volume, bias control at about 12 o'clock as well, maybe slightly less, and that just works for me. So these are fiddly, these controls, if you're dialing things in all the time, but I think you'll probably be like me and you'll get your own favorite settings and you'll leave it with that. So this is a great pedal, all things considered, but if you've been watching this video and you're wondering what else could be out there, what other tone bender fuzzes are on the market at the moment that you could pick up, well, I highly recommend that you look on the used market for the now sadly discontinued JHS Legends of Fuzz Bender. That's my favorite tone bender pedal. That's probably my favorite fuzz pedal of all time as well. It's just got the 3 knobs and it doesn't have a bias control, but it is a wonderful sounding thing, and you'll probably find a used one for about the same price as one of these. So highly recommend those if you want a more simple take on the Mark III fuzz bender. Now, if you want an even more gnarly take on the fuzz bender, look no further than the MKIII Tone Bender pedal. That is absolutely wonderful. I've got that and love that as well. And if you want to go down the really affordable route and go for a different model of the tone bender circuitry, well, Behringer have made their own take on a tone bender recently, and it's really rather good at the one trick that it does. Now, all 3 of those other pedals have featured in a blind test that I did. You can see that elsewhere on my channel if you'd like to do that, and they all do really well. And I actually might need to do another where I compare the the EHX to those ones as well, because I think it would stand up to those other three really rather well indeed. Now, if you want to go for more general fuzzes, go for something like a JHS 3 Series fuzz or something like the Boss FZ1 Wazercraft. Those are great all-round fuzz pedals. But if you're looking for a tone bender type fuzz pedal in 2025, the Electro-Harmonix Bender Royale should definitely be on your shortlist, at least to try. This is a really fun fuzz. It'll do so many different tones. The bias control is great, the fuzz control is great, and if you play bass as well, you can use this blend control to really tighten up your tones too. So this one gets 2 thumbs up from me. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope this video has answered all of the questions that you may have had about the Bender Royale. But if there's anything else you'd like to know, drop me a line down there in the comments and I shall do my best to answer you to the fullest. And if you're still around, it would really make my day if you wanted to give the video a like, or maybe even sub to my channel, because that really does help. But that's been it for today. I've been Rich, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.